Do you know what one of the best things about Stinky is? Is that when he's super happy and he's purring, he drools. I think it's the cutest thing ever. My husband thinks it's disgusting. I think it's adorable. Anyway, so we have an email here from Carmen. It's quite long. Get comfortable. Carmen says, "Hi Tabitha, I've struggled with anorexia for a year now, but I have viewed food as the devil my whole life." It's a very dramatic opening. "In the past 2 months, I've started recovery. I'm still underweight, but I'm eating regularly now and until I'm satisfied. In the past week, there has been significant reduction in food guilt and anxious thoughts regarding what and how much I'm eating, which is fantastic. I've even started an Instagram account where I tackle all my fear foods, going to restaurants and eating what my heart desires multiple times a week. Except I went to see my dietitian, whom I have to see on a weekly basis as part of my care plan, and informed her of my success of eating abundantly and healthy and unhealthy foods, as well as challenging the eating disorder ideals around eating out. I'm not sure if this was her intention, but she made me feel slightly guilty, stating, rather than questioning, that I should only go out and eat these junk foods once a month, implying that anything more than that once a month is bad. So, she also mentioned that I should not be indulging in a whole pint of ice cream or a whole bag of cookies regularly, opting for controlled portions of healthier foods. There was a discussion on my fat intake and the whole macronutrient balance. Now I am scared of eating unrestricted, particularly as I'm a medical student and I already have orthorexic thoughts. I felt very frustrated after the consultation and I didn't want to go back, choosing to guide myself in recovery. I definitely do not want to end up with diabetes or other health complications because of my unrestricted and unhealthy eating. But I do understand that in order to recover, I need to do exactly that. In summary, and apologies for the long email, how do we find the balance between what health professionals plan for recovery and what we think is best for us? Dietitians and other health professionals have studied nutrition extensively and of course have the experience of dealing with many patients. Is unrestricted eating good for overall long-term health? Can I or am I doing more damage to my body? Well, you're right there that dietitians and other health professionals have studied nutrition extensively. But even if someone studies nutrition extensively, humans don't know enough about nutrition to really say much conclusive. I wrote a blog once, which is something like "fuck nutritional science," and I still stand by that. Compared to other sciences, nutritional science is really in its infancy. It's really, let's just say, young. It's not like other sort of medical science. It's much more complicated, and we're still at the stage with nutritional science where we kind of know some things, and we've named some things, like we've named macronutrients and micronutrients and all that crap, but we don't really know. And it's much more complicated than we think because everybody's body individually processes food differently anyway. There was one study done in Israel, I think I quoted this one in my book, where they fed the same people the same foods, like for a long time, like 800 people or so, exactly the same foods. And the only thing that they could conclude afterwards was that different people, even eating the same foods, process them completely differently. It's because our bodies are all individuals. And so the problem with it, I think, is that we know enough to be dangerous when it comes to nutritional science. We start meddling with stuff, and your body's sitting there telling you to eat what it thinks it needs because it's itself, so it should know what it needs. And then you've got some external person with a textbook saying, that's actually not what the textbook says, so you shouldn't do that. It's actually crazy if you think about it. And then so say like all of that aside, say that we know everything about nutritional science actually, and humans are way smarter than their bodies when it comes to that thing, and we know way better. If that were true, then the majority of dietitians and health professionals are not educated in restrictive eating disorders. They're actually, and I actually think the whole field has got this wrong. They think that obesity is the biggest problem in the world, and then they tell people to diet, and they don't understand that diets cause obesity in the majority of cases, because if you start restricting, then the body reacts and wants more food. So it's kind of all messed up, and in a sense you can say that the diet and nutrition industry has actually caused more obesity than there was before it existed. That's controversial, but I'll stand by that as well. I think that the less we knew about nutrition, the better we did as humans. And I think that we're going through this sticky phase in the human race where we think we know all this stuff and we're getting really cocky with it and we think we know better than our own bodies, and then it's going to come around and smack us in the face. And most of us already realised that because we did start to think we knew better than our own bodies, and it did smack us in the face. I know it certainly did me. So I guess what I'm saying is, what choice do you have other than listen to your body? Because it doesn't matter what your dietitian says. Your body's still going to want what it wants, and it's going to say what it says. Your body doesn't give a shit what your dietitian says. And it's certainly not listening to that. It knows what it needs, and it's going to continue to need those things. Just because your dietitian says, no, you shouldn't be eating that, your body's not going to go, oh yeah, actually, no, you're right. I'm right. I don't need that. Give me an apple instead. Don't need chocolate. Give me an apple. It'll be fine. No, your body's just going to be like, whatever. Shut up. Give me a chocolate bar. And that's because it knows what it needs. So I'm just going to say, listen to your body. Because basically restriction dresses itself up in fancy ways sometimes. You got restriction where you're restricting because, that's your deal, your intent, you're restricting. But basically, if someone's telling you not to eat what you want, they're telling you to restrict. And if a health professional tells you to restrict, it can seem like it's more valid, I guess. It's still telling you to restrict. Restriction is restriction, no matter how you dress it up or what makeup you put on it. So if you want to recover from a restrictive eating disorder, my advice would be do not restrict. And I'll stand by that. I keep saying that. It's because I'm going to stand by a lot of things today. I'll stand by that as well. You can't recover from restrictive eating disorder by restricting food. And restriction is restriction. Even if your dietitian tells you to restrict, it's still restriction.